Estamos apresentando Hospitais Tecnológicos.
Welcome to the state-of-the-art hospitals. This is one of the best hospitals for the treatment of childhood cancer. Here we have a surgical center specialized in neurosurgery. This is the ward of radiation therapy with modulated beam intensity. Wow. And here we do the intra-arterial chemotherapy. Fantastic.
Tio, por que você tá falando inglês se o GRAC é aqui no Brasil?
É verdade, né? Não precisa. O GRAC atende mais de 3 mil crianças de todo o Brasil todos os anos. 70% voltam a crescer saudáveis e ter uma vida feliz. Um dos melhores hospitais para crianças com câncer fica no Brasil e precisa da sua ajuda para continuar existindo. Conheça, doe. É você quem faz o GRAC.
Let's go. All right, guys, after this not too auspicious start, or we say ending of the last flight, now it's time to fly another short route from Curitiba to Joinville, and by this time we can explore there some aspect, aspects of the FSLAB simulations that are not usually seen. For example, let's talk a little bit more about the flight envelope protection of the aircraft. And FS Labs is doing a good job in reproducing it. This time we will fly a short route from Curitiba to Joinville. It's a very short flight, no more than 20 minutes long. And during this flight, we will explore some new features of the aircraft, fly some approach to stalls, and then we will fly an ILS at Joinville with a circling approach to the opposite runway. Let's try to get it better this time. So it's a transit cockpit preparation. So it's how can I say, it's quicker than full cold and dark. We just verified that the radar and predictive wind shear are off. Engines should be off by this time. Then we make sure that the APU or the external power are connected. In this case, we just leave the APU running. Then we check once again the oil levels, the oxygen, and the hydraulics. They're okay. Then while the first officer is doing the external walk around, we will start the cockpit preparation. Now it's a quicker aircraft setup since lots of things have already been done. Let's suppose that this was the assigned transponder code. It will be a short flight. We will plan it to a cruise altitude of 12,000 feet. Departure from runway 15. Our departure procedure will be this one. Bufba 1 alpha, transition OGPAC. And we'll fly the ILS Zulu. It's a DME arc, ending with a circling approach since the running uses 15. So it's a quick FMS programming here. Once again, we can program either another departure here from another runway, or we can program engine out takeoff route and engine out SID. In this case, we can program this SID. Now the engine out SID has been programmed, and we can check it here. So this is in green. This is the original flight plan, and in white we have the engine out SID. We'll fly to Buva, then turn right, direct to Dodra, and hold at Dodra in case of an engine failure after takeoff. Continuing with the FMGS program, we can leave Curitiba here. Let's check how much fuel do we have here. So for this trip, let's check how much fuel do we need. We can use this. We clear the block fuel values and click on fuel planning. But before doing that, we must add 10% of route reserve. So it's requesting us to 2.9 tons as a minimum. Let's refuel the aircraft with 3.5, so we have some margin for some air working routes. 3,500, and now we can confirm this. So we have 25 minutes of extra time. Performance. Here at Curitiba, we usually take off with flaps 3. Alright guys, now that the FMGS has been set up, we will just check the FCU panel, the flight control unit, and then let's check our departure procedure. For Curitiba. So it will be the Buvba 1 Alpha departure. We're going to take off, maintain runway head until Buvba, then turn right to Sirab, crossing Sirab at or below flight level 90 with maximum 240 knots. Then we will fly to Ogback. Let's just check if this is what we have. Buvba, Sirab, then Ogback. Note the altitude constraint here. We have a magenta asterisk, which means that there are some constraints, speed constraints and altitude constraints here. The aircraft is supposed to comply with all these constraints. Now we check our primary flight display, our navigation display. We also check the press page. We have landing elevation in auto and 0 feet, which is Joinville landing elevation. And we also check if we don't have any status. We don't have today any status or aircraft is fit for flying. Now, while we wait for the passengers to finish the boarding, we can do the before start checklist to the line. So let's do the before start checklist. Cockpit preparation. It's complete. Gear pins and covers are removed. Signs on auto. ADIRS. Nav. Fuel quantity. We have 3,480 kilograms. Takeoff data is set. And battle reference 1020 set. Down to the line. Let's suppose that we have finished the passenger boarding. Now it's time to close the doors. The exterior models animations are very nice, they're very smooth. The external model of the aircraft is also wonderful. FSLABS has spared no resources in doing a great external model. So beacon on. Let's check. Oh, the ground staff, the maintenance guy hasn't inserted the nozzle steering pin. So let's set the pin. All right. So all doors are closed below the line. Windows and doors closed. ATC is in auto. Beacon on. Thrust levers idle. Parking brake is off for pushback. The ground chocks are removed. The GPU is disconnected. So let's request the pushback. We have been cleared for pushback. So starting the pushback. Bye. Now we have a decent pushback here with GSX, and the jet bridge was removed. The tug has been connected, and we are ready to push back. All right, parking brake is released. We will do something different now. In order to save some fuel, some airlines they start the engine one first and they taxi single engine. It's possible to do that here, and we will do that just to show you how it's done in real life. So we're gonna start engine number one. Engine one starts. Se eu não quebrar, claro.
Não, tá aqui em casa, por isso que eu falar. Ele não tá acostumado com meus comandos. Mas o mic tá baixo, esse aí não tem mic, velho. Já tá no máximo.
Continua abaixo.
Ah, ele achou que tava.
Como é que. Não. Okay, pressure. Parking brake is set. Parking brake is set. Note the nose wheel steering disconnect. So we must ask the ground staff to remove the steering pin. All right. The first engine was started. The first officer can do the scan flow. Here's the scan flow. But in this case, since we will start the engine later, we turn off the APU bleed and we must turn on the electric pump so that we have all the three hydraulic systems pressurized. Note that even with engine number 2 off, and by it we mean that the hydraulic yellow system pump is off, we have just turned on the yellow electric pump, so it is pressurizing the yellow system without the need of the PTU. Now we can taxi with all the three hydraulic systems operating normally. It saves us some fuel. Parking brake is off. We have just requested our taxi clearance. We have been given the taxi clearance, and now we will taxi to runway 33. Vamos tentar. Sim. The problem with taxiing with just one engine is that the turning capability of the aircraft is somewhat limited. You must develop some forward speed before trying to turn to the operating engine. For example, if we needed to make a left turn here, it would be slightly more difficult than doing a right turn. And the aircraft has some tendency, so it's nice to taxi with a little bit of steering to the left. As you can see, the aircraft taxis perfectly on just one engine, just like the real one, and it's very nice to taxi. Just a slight yaw tendency to the right, but it's perfectly controllable with the steering inputs. And if you have a nose-wheel steering axis assigned to your joystick, it's even easier to taxi. The ideal moment to start the second engine is about 3 minutes before the takeoff. Why 3 minutes? Because the engine takes about 1 minute to start, and we need more 2 minutes of warm up time before applying takeoff power. So 3 minutes before your actual takeoff time, you should start the engine so that you have plenty of time to start the engine and warm it up. But we're gonna do it right now, just to show you how it's done. So we turn the engine master off, on, turn the electric pump off, turn on the APU bleed. We must wait some time until we have bleed pressure on the right manifold. If we have fast fingers and start the engine without waiting for the bleed pressure to increase on the starter valve, we will have a start fault. So now we have 40 psi. It's time to start the engine. And it's been precisely modeled on the FSLABS A320. It's very nice. The real aircraft also takes this time to have adequate bleed pressure on the starting manifold. Now the engine 2 is starting. Now that the engine has started, it's time to put the ignition in normal, then switch off the APU bleed, switch off the APU, turn on the anti-ice as required. It's not the case today. And then we will do the after start checklist. So after start checklist, anti-ice, off, ECAM status, checked, pitch trim, 1.0 set, and rudder trim, 0. After start checklist is complete, okay. Uhum. Tá, muito bom. Opa. Pois é. So let's suppose that we have three aircraft on the holding point of runway 15, and the first aircraft on the line is not ready. All right? We could do the following. You could apply the parking brakes here. So let's suppose that ATC has told us, okay, you are number 4 on takeoff. There are three aircraft on the holding point of runway 15. Hold short runway 11. We could also do the following. Copy the active. We're gonna change the runway. Kotal 1 Bravo. It would simply change the runway for another departure. And then put the performance. So since this runway is shorter, we would take off with toga thrust. Of course, we would check the actual performance of this runway. But this aircraft can take off with V speeds as low as 117, 120, 121 with flaps 3 and toga thrust. So we can take off from this shorter runway. And let's suppose that we have both performance. For the moment, we will take off at runway 15, but let's suppose that it says, okay, Charity 320, you were able to take off from runway 11 right now? And I can say yes. So at this moment, we would click secondary flight plan and activate secondary. Now, the performance has been changed to runway 11. The SID procedure has been changed to runway 11. And all we have to do is to reset the flaps if we were using a different flap setting other than the flap setting for takeoff from runway 15. Now it's time to do the flight control check. Full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral. Rudder, we will check the rudder, and then we will do the before takeoff checklist scan flow. Flight takeoff checklist. Flight controls, check it. Flight instruments, check it. Briefing, confirm our altitude has been revised to 12,000 feet initially, and now we're gonna take off from runway 11 on Kotal departure. So the briefing has been reviewed. Flap setting, conf 3, V1, VR, V2 flexible temperature. 117, 120, 121 toga thrust. Yellow electric pump is off. And ECAM memo, takeoff no blue. Okay, Charity 320, you were clear to line up and take off runway 11. So, turning on the TCAS. Cabin crew, prepare for takeoff. And backs off. Da 11. Aham. Agora? Vou. Hum. Ah. Okay, guys, after a minor technical glitch here, we are ready for takeoff. So, toga. Manual toga, Soares runway. Não tá funcionando. O leme não tá funcionando. As you have seen, the aircraft has a good performance, a short field performance. It took off quite easily. Positive rate, landing gear up. Just climb, climb, SRS. Flaps 1, speed check. Flaps 1. Since we took off from the another runway, we will try to climb as much as possible in order to turn right and join the approach procedure as soon as possible. S speed, flap 0, speed check, flap 0. There is another feature that is very interesting with this aircraft. Let's suppose that we got behind of the aircraft and we forgot to raise the flaps. At 210 knots, it will retract the flaps so that we cannot overspeed them. It's almost a foolproof aircraft, and it's correctly reproduced in this aircraft. Now that we have retracted the flaps, let's expedite the climb in order to reach our cruise flight level as soon as possible. So I hit the expedite button and the aircraft starts to climb. ATC has cleared us to turn right and fly direct to this waypoint, Delta 353 left, Lima. Transition, set standard, and let's do the after takeoff climb checklist. Landing gear, up, flaps, retracted, backs, on, bottle reference, stern set, after takeoff climb checklist. Oh, look what we got. We got an ECAM message. What it's saying? Fuel, left wing tank low level. If no fuel, now what happens? It shows us the system page showing us the actual status of the fuel system. We took off with about 3,000 kilograms of fuel, which is quite a low level. So, if any inner wing tank, wing fuel tank reaches less than 750 kilograms, which is about 45 minutes of endurance, it starts to transfer the fuel quantity from the outer tanks to the inner tanks. It will eventually reach a higher level, a higher fuel level, and this message will disappear as soon as we get 750 kilograms. But let's suppose that we are running in a very low level situation. It's saying that the left wing tank low level, it's an ECAM, electronic centralized aircraft monitoring, it's an abnormal situation, and it says if no fuel leak and fuel imbalance. We have a minor imbalance here, less than 90 kilograms of imbalance. But let's just do the ECAM action so that you can be familiar with the situation. The first thing the pilot flying would say, I have controls and communications, and the pilot monitoring would do the actions. Let's slow down the aircraft and insert a holding at this position. So we have plenty of time to evaluate the situation. since we are flying single pilot. Eita. Insert. Now we have a holding pattern here, and we have plenty of time to deal with this procedure. The outer tank is transferring fuel, alright, no problem. But let's do what the ECAM says. He's asking us to do a crossfit. So if no fuel leak and fuel imbalance, we have no fuel leak since the fuel on board plus the fuel used 2,370 kilograms plus 780 is the total fuel quantity that we have departed from the gauge. So we have no fuel imbalance, so no fuel leak. If the sum of the fuel on board and the fuel used was lower than the fuel that we had by the time we left the gate, a fuel leak would be suspected. So fuel crossfeed on. Let's go on the overhead panel. Fuel crossfeed on. Note that the blue fuel crossfeed line has disappeared. It means that we have done the procedure correctly. Left tank pump 1 off. Left tank pump 1 off. Left tank pump 2 off. Left tank pump 2 off. Now it has another ICA message. This message can be disregarded because we are doing the crossfit. So I will just clear this message. And it shows me the status page. Telling us that the left tank is gravity fed only. And in fact, it's not feeding the engine, the left tank. The right tank fuel pump is feeding the left engine via the crossfeed valve. So I will just crossfeed until the left inner tank reaches about 760 kilograms. Note that we are not transferring fuel from one wing to another. The fuel level is rising here because the fuel is being transferred from the outer cell to the main tank, to the left inner tank. All the engines are being fed from this tank only. But since no fuel is being used from this tank, its level is increasing because of the fuel that's being transferred from the outer tank. Now that we have more than 750 kilograms, we can even finish the crossfit, but I will let it transfer just a little bit more of fuel. Now that we have reached an equal level between the tanks, I can finish the crossfeed procedure. So we will turn the left hand tanks pumps number 1 and 2 on, and then we'll close the crossfeed valve. So the ECAM action is complete. Note that we have no longer the status, it has been cleared, and we are flying a holding pattern here. Let's take some time to just see how beautiful is this region and how beautiful is the Paulo Ricardo scenery. Como é que vira aqui? Consegue ver? Aqui mesmo. Lots of mountains, the terrain is perfect. The city of Joinville is right over there, and the San Francisco Bay, it's perfect depicted. Okay, I just accidentally disconnected the autopilot. Let's take the time now to fly the airplane by hand a little bit more, and let's talk about the fly-by-wire system. First of all, we'll exit the hold and we'll select a heading here. Let's find this heading. Tá com... Ah, eu estou esbarrando aqui no... Let's see what happens, for example, if I disconnect the auto thrust by setting thrust levers to idle. The auto thrust was disconnected. And let's suppose that I'm getting distracted. I'm climbing, the speed is dropping. Note, we were supposed to be keeping 240 knots, but the speed has dropped to less than 200 knots. I can fly as slow as this speed, this top of this amber, with auto thrust. Below this, I can only fly with auto thrust off. Now I have reached what we call the alpha prot. The aircraft will try to pitch down now in order to regain its speed. I'm not touching on the side stick, and the plane will start a shallow descent in order to keep the top of this black and amber stripe. It's what we call the alpha prot. I can try to keep the altitude and reduce the speed even further. Note the side stick is moving, but as I release the side stick, the aircraft will start a gentle descent again in order to regain speed. It's perfectly modeled in FSLABS. But now let's try to do a more radical maneuver. I want to fly with less than 180 knots, so I keep pulling the side stick. Note it. I keep pulling the side stick in an attempt to maintain the altitude and reduce the speed even further. Now I have the side stick completely pulled back. The aircraft is trying to keep the altitude, but it reaches a point when it starts to descend, and now we have the alpha floor. Note that even though the thrust levers are at idle, the aircraft is at maximum thrust. It's trying its best to accelerate out of the stall. Now I still have the side stick fully back. I will try to climb the aircraft as much as I can. Look, it's stalling. It's saying that the aircraft is about to stall. It will climb as much as it can, losing speed with maximum thrust, although the thrust levers are at idle position. Note how much I am climbing, nearly 7,000 feet per minute, and the aircraft is not stalling. It's losing speed. The thrust levers are still at idle. I will once again turn off the auto thrust and put the thrust levers at idle again. I have just disconnected the alpha floor and the auto thrust. Now I have reached alpha max, which is the maximum angle of attack that the aircraft can reach. It's about to stall, but it's not stalling. It's descending, but as soon as it picks up some speed, it tries to climb again. So I cannot stall the aircraft in normal. Of course, if I lose some of the aircraft protections, it will eventually stall, but it's not the case right now. Let's get out of this situation. Let's increase the speed. reconnect the outer thrust, put thrust levers back to climb, and lose some altitude. Reconnect the autopilot, open send. It's it, the modeling of these Airbus characteristics is quite good. It's quite good in FSLABS. It's really not 100% realistic because we should not have the stall alarm in normal law with this protection because the aircraft would not stall, but it's good. Tirou o vídeo? Não. Vamos lá. I will fly a shortcut now in order to descend quickly and prepare for the aircraft for a landing. Let's prepare the aircraft. As I have told you, it's a very short flight, so we don't have too much time to prepare it. I will activate the approach phase and start. So I will insert the circling minimums for Joinville. Since I wouldn't risk a tailwind landing at at such a short runway as the Joinville runway 33, we will fly the localizer for a circle to land. Let's see if there is any circling available. Okay. Oh, we don't have a circling approach approved here. Only a straight in approach. So our minimums would be, so we have to change for our nav to runway 15, our nav Zulu. Let's see if we have it in our database. Arrival, our nav 15 Zulu. Insert. Okay, things have changed here. So I have changed the procedure for landing on runway 15. Our minimums will be 530. And we're gonna land flaps full, auto brake medium. We are quite high on the approach, but no problem. Onde é que é o speed brake? Hã? Não vai adiantar, né? Okay, we are using the speed brakes. Yeah. Ah, okay. Vai. We are quite slightly high on the approach, but let's see what this aircraft can do. Yes? 2,100. 2,000 and... No, it's more than enough. Ué, travou? Oof. So let's do a hot and high approach now. We are doing 250 knots and descending. Let's do the approach checklist. Yeah. Briefing. Confirmed. ECAM status. Check. Seat belts. On. Battle half. 1017 set. 1017 set. Minimum. 530 set. Engine mode selector is normal. Approach checklist is complete. Now we are starting to decelerate. Letting gear down. Mm. This is a way to slow down the aircraft quite quickly. At green dot speed. Flaps 1. Approach armored. Final blue. Approach nav green. Now we are back on the profile. Flaps 2. Speed check. Flaps 2. Final approach green. Now we can set the missed approach altitude for this procedure, which is 3,000. 3,000 missed approach set. The aircraft is below 160 knots, so we are able to do this turn. Now let's just observe the aircraft flying its approach beautifully. I hope. Yeah. F1, F2, and then press the OK. Now I have been correctly briefed about the brakes, where the brakes and the idle thrust and reverser buttons are. I know. Okay, this time we won't have any problem. I hope so. The aircraft is flying perfectly its profile, and it's a very nice thing about the FSLABS. So all the modes are correct, and we are flying the approach just as if we would be doing that on real life. I will revert to FPA, track FPA, which is a mode that I like to fly it on track FPA. We will talk about it in a further transmission, in a further live transmission about this fly mode, which is not much used. It's not used by many people. Flaps 3, speed check, flaps 3, as we are getting close to the final approach fix, flaps full, and landing checklist. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. Cabin crew, advised, auto thrust, speed, auto brake, medium, EK memo, landing no blue. So we are all set for landing. The aircraft is keeping its profile perfectly. Remember, this is a non-precision approach. The aircraft will not be lined up with the runway, but it will be in a good position for landing. Let's fly this approach down to the minimums. Z para o autopilot, né? Hã? Não, ele não vai fazer isso. Okay, I have the runway in sight, autopilot off, flight directors off, runway track is 155. Tô com o dedo aqui já. Ground spoilers, reverse green, decel, 70. Idle reverse, oops, auto brake off, brake fine. Let's not forget to turn the steering, nozzle steering on. Okay, in this airport, it's not a good idea to try to smooth out the landing too much because, as you may have seen, the runway is quite short. But on the other side, you were a witness of how short this aircraft can stop, given given the proper braking procedure is applied. And now we're gonna do the backtrack on the concrete threshold so as not to damage the pavement. The steering, the ground steering characteristics of the FSLABS are very good. Also, the aircraft can turn 180 degrees on the runway in about 23, 25 meters. So this runway is 45 meters wide, and we were able to turn right in the middle of it. So the ground steering of the aircraft is accurately represented. And as we are backtracking on the runway, we can do the after landing checklist. We will turn the radar and predictive wind shear off, disarm the spoilers, return the ignition to normal if we were using it, turn off the TCAS, brake fan, we're gonna turn it on because we had to use a heavy braking, retract the flaps, turn the flight directors in, all the FCU off. 5, não? É. And now we're gonna turn the APU on. This is another fantastic scenery from Paulo Ricardo, which, without a doubt, is making the best Brazilian sceneries of all time. It's light on frames, it's immensely detailed, and it's a pleasure to fly here. I fly to Joinville quite often, and it's very nice to land here. It's one of the most challenging runways in Brazil, and it's very, very well represented. You can almost feel as if you were there flying the real airplane in this real airfield. Okay, lights off. Yes, the nozzle steering is quite sensible, and the real aircraft has also very sensitive steering, but not as sensitive as this one. Let's have some help from the marshal. Parking brake set. So parking brake set, APU is available. See, number one shut, number two shut, APU bleed on, fuel pumps off, and we can do the parking checklist. APU bleed on, engines off, seat belts off, external lights, strobe alto 9 logo on, yellow electric pump off, parking brake and chocks. Let's put the chocks in place. Ground chocks are connected, GPU is available, and the nose wheel steering pin is set. So, as the chocks are in place, we can release the parking brake. So parking brake is off. And we should consider heavy rain. If we have heavy rain expected, we would turn off the extract ventilation system so that as not to let water get inside the avionics compartment. So if you are parking the aircraft and heavy rain is expected, turn off the ventilation extract system, just the extract system. As we have electrical power available, let's just open the doors, let the passengers disembark and unload the aircraft. Yeah, the rear door. I have just opened the rear car door. Yes. Yeah, so that Giorgio, so that the catering can replenish our aircraft with snacks, beverage, food, and so on. Isn't this the door that the catering is supposed to board the aircraft? The yes, the cleaning guys. Yes. All right. So as we have electrical power available, let's turn the electrical power on. Now we are we can turn off the APU in order to save some fuel for the company. And with this, no, I think that we are done for now. Well, another flight crew would board the aircraft and continue the flights. Look how beautiful this scenery is, how beautiful this aircraft is. It's really an amazing simulation. Uh, this scenery is exactly as in real life. And it's one of my favorite airfields. It's perfect. Even the rust on the terminal ceiling is well reproduced. Well, guys, we have two options. Either another crew would pick up the plane and fly to another destination, or we could park the aircraft for layover. We can leave the aircraft in this state for the maintenance guys, but let's suppose that we would leave the aircraft totally powered down. So we would turn the brake fan off and we would do the securing the aircraft checklist. We would turn the crew supply off, oxygen supply off. We would turn off the IRS, number one first, number two first, IR2 first, and then number three. We would turn off all the exterior lights, seatbelt signs off, no smoking signs off, and it's very important because uh, if the no smoking sign is left on, the batteries will discharge, and the external lights, emergency lights, would be disarmed. So let's do the securing the aircraft checklist. AGERS off, oxygen off, APU bleed off, emergency exit light off, signs off, APU and batteries off. Let's consider cold weather is not the case. Now it's just a matter of turning off the external power. And now we have finished our flight. Hope you have enjoyed, guys, and I'd like to apologize for some mistakes which were caused by my lack of familiarization with Giorgio's setup, with Giorgio's rig, using keyboard, using another a different joystick that the one that I have. But all in all, I hope you have enjoyed it. And it's just the second live, second of many. It was a very nice experience to be sharing this knowledge with you. And be sure that we will do lots and lots of lives in the near future. You can expect to have also another other pilots flying the 737, the 787, the 777, and hopefully they will fly better than me. But that's it. George, do you have anything to say, please?
Just to say, I have no words to say. Thank you, Paulo. He's on a day off, and he came to my house to do this live stream for the one thing. We need to help people. We need to help these children with cancer.
And that's it.
And that's it. Thank you all.
Oi, gente, eu sou Maria Luísa, paciente aqui do GRAAC, e queria agradecer vocês que ajudaram a gente. Um beijo. Hoje eu só quero dizer obrigado. Obrigada! Hoje eu só quero dizer obrigado.
Hoje só quero dizer obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
Eu só quero falar pra vocês muito obrigado. Valeu, galera.
Oi, gente, eu sou aqui do GRAAC e, como paciente, eu queria agradecer a todos os contribuintes. Muito obrigada e um beijo para todo mundo.
Valeu.
Beijo!